Hi, I'm Alexa.
And I'm Cadence.
And we're Something Sinister
Podcast.
Podcast. And we're back.
I'm going to cry.
Oh my God.
I'm going to cry.
We don't even know what we're doing.
Yeah, what do I
It
do
took
with my
us
hands?
like an hour to set up.
And we had to set it up all by ourselves.
We did.
It was really scary.
It was so sad. We didn't even get to phone a friend. The friend didn't answer.
Piece of shit. Friend. Friend. Oh, God.
No
guys.
longer a friend.
That's it. You're cut out.
Bye.
That's all it takes. Don't answer our phone calls. You're out.
You are out.
Well, guys, we are back with a special episode.
Yes.
Don't you dare think for 1 second we are back weekly, because we ain't got the time just yet. But we had time for this special release.
We did. And it's the Delphi murder case, which is what we are going to talk about. It's just so crazy. Like, there's so much going on right now with that case.
Yep.
And we just had to talk about it with you all.
Yeah.
Like, we also...
Well, for a few reasons, we had to talk about it. One, because of major developments. And we also covered this when we were featured on Chiller Queen podcast.
Yes.
But NBI Studios reached out to us and wanted to do an interview and talk about the new developments of the Delphi murders, which has even since then, more has happened.
So much has happened.
And we realized, oh shit, we didn't actually cover this on our podcast, so let's just cover it.
Yeah, let's release an episode. So a couple of weeks ago, we did an interview with NBI Studios with Bob Ruff. So he is the host of True Crime Binge, and you can look up his resume. I mean, he has... a show on Oxygen. He has other podcasts and stuff like that. So
I can't believe he honestly asked us to be on his podcast.
We are so special. We're like celebrity status.
I know. It was really scary. I was super nervous. I was shaking before the podcast. And
we didn't know if we could say the F word. We're like, okay.
We did okay, so our first time meeting them, we didn't have a pre-interview. Everything was just kind of through email. And so I was like, okay, I have questions before we start. Can I cuss? Because
can I say fuck?
I'm going to have to really watch myself. And
or you're going to have to do a lot of editing because,
But no, it went really well.
It went really well. And it was fun. Like, he kind of acts like we do. I mean... not the comedy aspect, but he makes things lighthearted. So it's
very conversational.
Very conversational, very easy to listen to. So his episode with us, the collaboration regarding the Delphi murders, should be releasing
anytime.
Yeah, literally
I think they said
anytime.
December 12th. We're recording this on December 10th. So we were like, oh shit, we got to get this out.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. Definitely go check them out if
for sure.
if you're into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they have wow. Okay. I'm going to sound like I did not do my research, but they have a whole network, right?
No, they do. They have a whole network. And I mean, they talk about true crime. Yeah. That's all they talk about. So it's a really cool, interview conversational style podcast. So,
and if you watch Dr. Phil, I'm telling you, Bob Ruff is Mike Bear.
Yeah.
He is Mike Bear.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it again on my way down because I bring it up last minute on the podcast. I very appropriately interrupted talking about murders to say, you know who you look like?
Yeah, she really did. She always has to make a Dr. Phil joke. So,
but no, I was thinking about it again on my way down. I was like, wow, that was Mike Bear. I think we just got punked.
Yeah, right. He says his name is Bob Ruff, but it's Mike Bear.
It's Mike Bear. And he works for Dr.
alias.
Phil.
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing this. And also just the Delphi murders. That was one case that really stuck with me anyways. And I felt like I honestly don't see it popping up like you do other cases.
Literally ever. Even with the newly developed shit.
And it was on Good Morning America.
I know.
And I didn't catch that.
Nancy Grace, where the fuck are you?
Right? You would think she'd be all over this shit. And for
Which she was initially, but still, recently.
For as many, true crime things that I follow on YouTube and that we follow on Instagram, you would think you would see this popping up everywhere because this has been a cold case since 2017, guys. It's been a cold case for a long, long time. And well, I won't spoil what we're going to tell you, but I'm just like, why isn't this popping up everywhere? Everywhere.
Really?
And it's not.
Yeah, I know. It's so crazy.
It's relevant in the news. Like I said, Good Morning America covered it and all this, but I was just shocked because I hadn't really heard of it until we talked about it with Avery.
Yeah, I remember hearing about the case, but I didn't hear anything after 2017. literally after like April or May 2017.
Well, before we get started, let's just give the people a quick update since we've been gone for a few weeks. So what's new with you other than you got knocked up?
Yeah, still cooking
Old
a baby.
News now.
Old news now. Yeah. That's
Are you drinking yet or still holding off on that?
Yeah, holding off, trying to be good. I go to AA every day. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Shaking. No. I do crave alcohol though. And it's because Listen, Linda.
I am an alcoholic. Yes.
No, I just, like tonight we went to dinner and I can't have a fucking margarita. Like, I just want a margarita and I cannot have it. Or like, there's nights where I'm like, man, a glass of wine would sound so good.
And I'm the
now.
worst friend because like I don't care and I will still have 2 margaritas at dinner.
Yeah, no, she did. She did. But I deal with that like with everybody. I mean, Thanksgiving, everyone was like getting drunk and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, well, you guys fucking suck. But I found some non-alcoholic wine. A friend of mine helped me find it and it actually tastes pretty good.
Yeah, but do we really drink for the taste?
I mean, it helped because if you're craving like a glass of wine, like, yeah, it helped. And it tastes like wine. It doesn't taste like grape juice like other non-alcoholic wines taste like. So
interesting.
I know.
Well,
what about
great.
you? News with you.
Well, I met a closeted gay Mormon.
She did.
So that's it. Let's get started on this. So basically how we're going to do this is we're going to do a quick recap of the Delphi murders just to catch everybody up who is not super familiar with this. And I said this on the interview, but I did not use Wikipedia as a source, but we will credit all of our sources at the end of this episode.
So proud.
I tried to be professional, at least for their podcast. So
yeah, for sure. So we're going to do the timeline and then I'm going to go over like the new events, and then we're just kind of like gonna talk about it.
We're just gonna talk.
It's gonna be a little different, so hope you like it.
All right, no drinking word. Just drink. Literally, just keep chugging. In fact, this is a chugging episode. As soon as we're done with the disclaimer, like you can't stop chugging.
Like, don't even come up for air.
like just pass out. All right. We just got someone killed. All right. Our videos and podcasts are for entertainment purposes. All information discussed was found on the internet. Keep in mind, we will talk all things sinister that may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Boom.
So into the Delphi murders. Okay. So 2 best friends, Abby and Libby, went missing when they were hiking on a trail in Delphi, Indiana. And I think it's Abigail and Lynn. What was Libby's full name? Elizabeth?
I think so.
Okay. Their bodies were found near the Monon High Bridge Trail, February 14th, 2017. So these girls, let's go back to February 17th 13th. Wow. I've already fucked this up. So around 1:30 p.m. is when they're dropped off February 13th by a family member, Abigail Williams Liberty. That was her name. Liberty German. They're dropped off at this bridge in Delphi, Indiana. It is a regular hiking spot. So this wasn't like some sketch place that their parents dropped them off at. Right. And what we know is that Libby posted a pic of Abby walking on this bridge around 2:07 p.m. It was on Snapchat, right?
Right.
And then a few hours later, someone came to pick them back up. No one arrived. The parents immediately got on this. They were reported missing by that evening by 5:30 p.m.
Yep.
And family, friends, like people began searching the area. Carroll County Sheriff's Department, Delphi Police Department, Delphi Fire Department, and the Natural Resources Department, they joined the search. So everyone is like immediately getting on this. Keep in mind. So the search is called off before midnight. Even though the family continues to search, the sheriff says that doesn't believe that we are necessarily in imminent danger at the moment, but they would start back again in the morning. So February 14th, Valentine's Day, 10 a.m., they begin again. By 12:45 p.m., search crews discover their bodies about 3/4 of a mile away from the bridge where they were dropped off. So something to note about that is that 3/4 of the mile definitely, or it should have been searched the night before.
You would think
not that far away.
You would think. I think the one thing that made them not search the area is because it wasn't part of this park. Like it wasn't part of the trail.
Yes.
And it was somebody's private property.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, well, we're not going to search there.
Well,
we're
they
just
probably had to have a
search.
warrant. That could have played into it too.
Legally, yeah. But I mean, they could have just wandered on.
Yeah.
Surely the people would have been like, yeah, fucking search.
Go
we
for
don't
it.
care. But I think that's probably why they
Part
didn't
of it.
search that area immediately.
Definitely with this case, a lot of conspiracies began. So it's just important to note that, because that kind of did play into some weird, like, why wasn't this found? It's only 3/4 of a mile and you have all of these departments on this. So that was kind of strange. So all that they're saying at this time is that the situation is not good. So February 15th is when they officially announced the identity of the girls. Police released the photo from Abby's phone of a man taken on the bridge at the same time the girls, let's see. Oh, at the same time the girls were there. So obviously they take the picture of this guy.
Yep.
It strikes them as weird.
Yep.
And the police say they need help identifying him. He appears to be approaching them on this bridge. So basically what it showed was like a heftier man in a jacket. His hood is on, darker clothing. He appears to be white, but he does have his hood on, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So it's a pretty basic person. February 16th, a search warrant is issued at the home on Bicycle Bridge Road. So this was on the home that the girl's body, or the property, that the girls were discovered. Right. So no evidence is found. No arrests are made. At the time, this guy is basically released. There was something that came out later. Did you see what the family member said about them later?
Right.
We'll get into that. But at this time, this guy is totally innocent.
Yep.
So over the next few days, hundreds of investigators join this case. There's a public visitation. It's beginning to become a little more.
Hundreds of tip lines are coming in. Like, it's insane.
Yep. February 19th, they officially call this unknown man prime suspect. Yep. February 22nd, an audio clip is taken from Libby's phone. They release this sound, and it sounds like a man saying down the hill. Yep. And that's all that they release, even though they do kind of allude to the fact that there's a lot more. There's a whole lot more, but this is all that they're going to release. They start asking for people's help in identifying the voice. Yep. The man on the property, they come out and say later, they didn't say this at the time, but they say later, I believe, that the voices don't exactly match up, or did they say they did and they just didn't look into it? There was something about his voice.
Yeah, there was something about his voice that sounded similar that they had thought, but they determined clearly that it wasn't his voice.
Yep. So they establish a tip line through the FBI. FBI announces they're utilizing about 6,000 electronic billboards in 46 states asking for information. Yep. So this case, we are now going into March. They hold a press conference. There's rewards that are being offered, and they execute a search warrant at the home of Ron Logan. He is the one who owns the property where the girls are found. He was named a suspect and was told that this is considered normal routine. Comes out later that a family member, I want to say it was a cousin, or was it somebody closer?
I don't remember.
Contacts somebody in the police force or the FBI or something and says that Ron Logan called me the day the girls' bodies were found and says, I need you to lie and give, like, basically for an alibi, which was super fucking sketch.
Yep. Very sketch.
So they are still looking into this guy. We're going to fast forward to April 2017. So we're 2 months in. No suspects, despite thousands of tips, hundreds of interviews. Yep. July 2017, police release a sketch of a man considered the main subject based on the photo. Yep. And there were a few people, or two girls, who thought they had seen a man that day. So white man, reddish brown hair, prominent nose, goatee, cap and hooded sweater, between 5'6" and 5'10", 180 to 122 pounds.
Yep.
There was some discrepancy as whether he's wearing a black jacket or a
blue jacket.
Yep. So there's some like little things, but they're pretty set on everything else.
Yep.
September 2017, Indiana State Police contacted by Colorado Sheriff's Department saying that there may be a connection with Delphi to Daniel Nations. He was declared a person of interest.
Yep.
More on that. So 2018, January, they serve a warrant to Daniel Nations for unrelated charges in Indiana. He goes to jail in February for failing to register as a sex offender. It is not related to Delphi, but he's in jail.
But we have a conspiracy about that.
So April 2019, we are 2 years later.
Yep.
Police release a new sketch. So it's a different looking sketch.
Completely different man.
And this was a sketch, right, that they actually had from the beginning, but they didn't release it to begin with, which was also weird.
Very sketchy.
So they believed that the first sketch they released was the person that they were looking for. There were new developments. There were more people that came forward. And so now they have this totally new sketch.
Yeah. And this guy was like, you're going to talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So and help me to remember this. There was one sketch that was strictly based on the video that Libby.
Yes.
And that was this one, or was that the original one that they released?
I think that was this one.
That's what I thought too.
I think the original sketch was the younger looking guy.
Yes.
But the newer sketch was the older man.
Yes.
Yeah. With the goatee.
Yes. So they also released what they called a longer audio clip from the Down the Hill.
Yeah.
This time all it says is guys down the hill.
Yeah. You hear like walking.
Yes, you hear the leaves.
Like the leaves. Yeah. And then guys down the hill.
And people are still upset by this too, because they clearly, like, we know at this point that there is a whole video.
Yes.
And we talked about this in our interview that obviously we don't want to, if like they have alluded that this was a graphic scene.
Right.
So it's not like we want the video of the girl screaming and crying and freaking out.
Not at all.
Or whatever, graphic content that contains, but it's like, there's got to be more.
For sure.
Or at least like everyone's being super quiet about this, and we are like years into the case. So it's
2
like
years later.
What is going on?
Right.
So then April 2021, investigators look into James Chadwell II. He's arrested and accused of kidnap and assault against a minor. So he's just somebody they look into.
Yep.
December 2021, Indiana State Police ask for info on a social media account under Anthony Schatz. Anthony Schatz's social media appeared to be a very attractive teenage boy, like a model. I don't mean that in a weird way.
I mean Hollister model.
Yes, like a very Hollister model. Like all the teenage girls would want this little kid.
Right.
He was this account was the last account, as far as we know, to have direct contact with Libby.
Yep.
So they start looking into this, discover that it is a Finsta, a fake Instagram account. And so kind of where my timeline ended was February 2022. Superintendent Doug Carter says that he believes that this case will be solved before he retires in 3 years, which, like, obviously we all do too.
We want it to be solved like now.
We're 5 years into this case, and it seems to be like
coming
a pretty clear cut case. I mean, it doesn't seem like a case that should be this complicated when we
know.
Okay, and at this point,
hundreds of tips, thousands of tips,
and they're not even releasing like maybe how the girls were murdered, were their murder weapons. So like we don't know anything.
Yeah.
So that's why these new developments are just
so important,
wildly important. And then, are you going to talk more about the social media account? Because that was a pretty big, part of the conspiracy aspect of things.
For sure. So we fast forward to the month of October, and we hear about a man named, the month of October of this year, we hear about a man named Richard Allen. Richard Allen. Well, who the fuck is Richard Allen? Mm-hmm. Well, he lived in Delphi for 16 years. He actually lived in a home half a mile from the Delphi Middle School where the girls went to school. And his home is also only 2.5 miles from this Monon High Bridge Trail where the girls were found and where they were last seen. This man also has 0 criminal history, like literally
works at CVS.
Yeah. Works at fucking CVS as a pharmacy technician, like literally had like a parking ticket or a speeding ticket, like no criminal history whatsoever. He's been married to this woman named Kathy. Kathy's a well-known, respected veterinarian in the city of Delphi. And he has a 28-year-old daughter, Brittany. At the time, well, today she's 28, but at the time she would have been 23 years old. You know, again, like no criminal history, has a daughter, 23 years old at the time. He's a pharmacy technician. And, you know, it's key to understand. Sorry, my dog is drinking his water in the background very, very aggressively. And it's really important to understand that the daughter, Brittany, and his wife, Kathy, have 0 involvement in any of this. So how in the world did they even come up with this man, Richard Allen, right? Well, they decide to look at Kathy's social media accounts, right? And of course, they're just looking at any suspect possible because they're desperate at this time. I mean, we are now 5 years into the investigation and we don't have anybody. So they're looking at her social media and they see that there's many videos of Richard Allen on her social media, including one where he's sitting in the passenger seat of the car with a blue jacket on. And the blue jacket is very similar to the jacket of the suspect that was wearing a very similar jacket in the Snapchat video from the girls.
Yeah. Didn't they even like analyze his walk?
Yes.
They analyzed his walk from one of her videos.
Yes.
And they were like, we've seen that walk.
Yeah. There was another video posted where he was walking in their backyard.
Yeah.
And they analyzed the walk of him in that video with the walk of the suspect in the video from the day that the girls went missing. So it's crazy. You know, they're connecting like the social media posts and stuff, and I don't think anything like really warranted them to look at him yet at this time. They were just trying to look at anybody that was in the area that could have been in the area during this time.
Yeah.
And so they see that and they're like, wow, that's kind of a coincidence. And I think it came from the public. Like, I think that was like one of the tips.
Yeah.
Like, it came from the public.
Well, I don't want to jump the timeline, but they did interview him in the beginning.
Oh, I know.
I'm going to get there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Libby's grandmother, another thing too, which was just kind of weird and like how he's connected to this case. Libby's grandmother said that Richard Allen was also the one that printed off the pictures that were used at the girl's funeral.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. And Richard Allen didn't charge her for the pictures. So it's like, was he just being a nice guy or is he truly guilty? And I think we're going to talk a lot about like his guilt, like what we think too.
Yeah.
What's also weird about this case and like why he's connected and whether or not he's guilty or not is when he was arrested. And we're going to talk about that. But the day of the announcement of the arrest, which was on Halloween, they automatically scheduled the pretrial conference and the trial date. So that's like unheard of. They normally will only do that if they have like specific evidence that is connecting him to this case. But again, like we don't know what those connections are at this time. I mean, now we have the probable cause document, which we're going to get into, but at this time, October 31st, like we didn't know anything. We didn't know if there was DNA. We didn't know like literally anything that was connecting
kept from the public.
100%.
Which, again, we talked about this in our interview, but it's like, I do see, I totally understand that there are things that the public does not need to know anything. And I do think that trouble comes from internet sleuths.
Yeah.
Like, I really do. It's why we
sure.
don't investigate and we just do storytelling, because
right.
Like, you see these people that like demonize like innocent people, or
sure.
they get it wrong, or
For
they get too involved, and they throw out, they overload these systems that are already understaffed, and so, or under, I don't want to say underprepared, but like they deal with all of these other cases. Like, this isn't just like their only thing that they're dealing with. So I totally get it. But this was a weird case because there was so much not shared, and
Everything
it was
was
cold
not shared.
case. So it's like, okay, maybe the first couple months, but then a year goes by, then 2 years go by, and it's like, Jesus, like, give us something.
Yeah,
like, give
literally
and if
anything.
you don't have time, that's where like awesome people, these like private investigators, and honestly, there's so many people even in the podcasting and YouTube space that like this is what they do. They look into this and they do it very, very well.
Right.
They help to solve cold case or just even produce further developments. In fact, there's one podcast that I watched that definitely led them to some good leads and some new evidence. And so I don't think it's always a bad thing that that the public gets involved. Not always.
It's not a bad thing at all. I mean, I 100% understand where they were coming from and the direction that they were coming from. But come on, it's been 5 years. It's like, we need something. We need to know why you are arresting this man, Richard Allen.
Yeah.
And I mean, automatically scheduling his trial for March of 2023, which is just fucking wild. Like, to announce that his trial is scheduled the day that you are announcing his arrest. So, you know, we talked about him working at CVS. What I also found was at the CVS, you know, he would walk past multiple sketches of the suspect that were posted at CVS.
Now that we can say this, one of these sketches does look like him.
Does resemble him. Yes, 100%.
Lots of similarities.
And so he was walking past these every single day at work. There was one on the front door of CVS. And since he was a pharmacy technician, there was one on the glass where he was helping customers.
You think people like made jokes with him? Like,
Nobody says that they ever made a connection that it was Richard Allen.
That's crazy.
Nobody ever called in and said that. So October 13th, I'm going to go back because we were just talking about Halloween. October 13th, 2 weeks prior to the arrest.
And this is in 2022.
This year.
Okay.
The police searched the home of Richard and Kathy Allen. They were obviously escorted out of the home through the entire search. They sat in the driveway for the first couple of hours, and then Kathy left. She's like, I'm leaving. Like, this is too stressful.
Yeah.
Richard stayed in the driveway. A tow truck pulled up and took his car. They also, and this is all hearsay by the neighbors. Like, the neighbors were watching the entire time. So we'll talk about the court documents, what the court documents say here in a little bit. But this is all from the neighbors. So the neighbors saw the car get towed. They saw the detectives were digging near the shed, which is by a fire pit. Officers took some items out of the home, including 2 large bundles of dark color. Oh my gosh, I can't talk.
You good?
Dark colored cloth or clothing. Good Lord. A shoebox, stack of books, and a Macy's bag full of stuff. So the neighbors couldn't see what exactly it was. The 2 areas in the backyard by the shed that they were digging up were very, very small areas. I mean, it said that, like, it wasn't like a hole. Like, they didn't use a shovel to dig. It was almost like they were taking a soil sample. So to me, when I think of a soil sample, I'm thinking of a decomposing, like, body.
Yeah.
Because you can take a soil sample if there has ever been a decomposing body, and the soil is going to test for the decomposure of the body.
Right.
But the bodies weren't found there. So I thought that was very, very strange.
Yeah, that is
that
weird.
The holes that they dug were like tiny, like soil sample.
I mean, then
tiny.
like, they like for people who take trophies.
Right.
And again, at this point, we don't know anything about the crime scene and what the state of the bodies were in. So it's like maybe he did take something.
He could have. So the neighbors watched the entire property being searched for 12 hours. I mean, some of the neighbors had binoculars. Like they were like,
I would have been that neighbor.
I would have been like right in the street with neighbor. Fucking popcorn and like watching the whole thing.
So did I ever tell you like I had binoculars and with my previous, and we could see neighbors out our back porch, and we lived next to vacation rentals.
Oh yes.
And like sometimes like parties would get like wild and crazy, and so we'd just sit out on our back deck and be like, so they're playing Dungeons and Dragons this evening. Like that's creepy. I know that's like probably
that's
not
so funny.
Something I should admit.
Yeah, you're like a peeping Tom
to the public.
You're going to get arrested. Kansas City Police Department, look out for this bitch.
Oh, that was definitely in Branson, but yeah,
or there. So at this time, you know, he's obviously arrested. They have probable cause. They've taken stuff from his home. And he is asking the court to either reduce his bail, drop his bail, or just release him, because he's saying that the prosecutors don't have enough evidence against him to prove that he is guilty of the murders of Abby and Libby. And just so everyone knows, he's currently being held on 0 bond, like no bond at all. So there's no way he's getting out, period. And we'll talk a lot about the evidence.
How does that happen if you are held on 0 bond, doesn't that kind of imply that you are 100% guilty?
You would think.
Like that means
like
that
you
got
are a
some
danger to the public,
shit.
and we are not letting you out.
Wow. I didn't realize. I didn't know that part.
Yep. No bond. So we're going to talk about a man named Keegan Anthony Klein just for a little bit, because it plays in the timeline of this time in October.
Yeah.
Cadence mentioned that he had a fake social media account under the name of Anthony Shots. And he was using this account to solicit underage girls with nude photos. So detectives kind of thought that this could be a connection to the case. It was determined to not be connected to the girls, but it was proven that Klein does not have anything to do with the disappearance or the murder of the girls.
But I will say this, because I didn't mention this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It did play into one of the conspiracies of the 2 different drawings, the sketches, because they were like, well, maybe there were multiple people involved.
Yes.
And there was the conspiracy that this Instagram account could be a pedophile ring of sorts.
Right.
That, you know, maybe this was like a frequent spot for these people to pick up these girls. Maybe there were 2 people. Like there was this whole thing.
Yeah, there was a whole investigation around him, because they thought, how odd could it have been that he was the last account to have communicate with the girls, well, Libby, for example, prior to her death or disappearance.
Yeah.
And, you know, a whole like conspiracy around that too, which we'll talk about whenever we get into the discussion. It's a very, very sick situation.
All around. And just FYI, Keegan Klein's trial is set for January 18th, 2023. And again, it's for like being a pedophile. I mean, having many photos and videos of girls and soliciting underage girls for sexual and he fully
videos
admitted to having the Instagram and
he like 0 guilt, 0 remorse. I think you were saying like he said, oh, you get it, like you understand, to like the detective, like you know what I mean.
There was an interview of him from jail I was telling Alexa about, and it was just slimy. Like he was sitting there, and I hate like a habit that I tried to break myself of is when like it's not like a tick, but it's kind of like people who say like, or, like,
you know.
It's like an anxious, or, you know, and during his interview, they asked him why did you create this account then?
Right.
And instead of just saying,
I'm a pedophile.
Or instead of saying I was soliciting underage sex, he said, well, I just got bored and was trying to get attention. And I hated the fact that he threw in the, because if I were the interviewer, I would have been like, actually, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
not a pedophile. So no, I don't know. I understand the words you're saying because I understand English, but like, I don't know. No, you don't create Finstas because you're bored
to talk to underage girls
for sex and like ask for photos and whatever else. And he did say, he's like, I had no intention of meeting up with these girls. I never met up with them. It was more just like an online fantasy thing.
Yeah, and for like my pleasure, whatever.
It's
but
disgusting.
Still, so gross.
But yeah, very like casual about it. At least in that interview, that's how he came off.
Oh, he didn't care. There was zero remorse whatsoever for what he did to those poor girls. But so going back to Richard Allen, everyone, even his neighbors that knew him, were shocked that he was arrested. Mm-hmm. They said he was a nice guy. Neighbors said the same thing. Like they were shocked whenever they saw the detectives get there and like, they're taking out all of this evidence. His coworkers said the same thing. Nobody saw any red flags whatsoever. His wife and his mother are still standing by his side. They are present at every court appearance. His daughter, Brittany, has not been involved and will not talk to the media at all. And at this time, everyone had deleted their social media. His wife, Kathy, she did create a new social media account. But what I had seen was it wasn't actually her. What I read about, it wasn't actually her. It was someone else portraying to be her, like pretending that they were her. But who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, if that were me, there's no way I could be on social media. Like,
yeah, like what there, as much as like, I very much enjoy social media, but involved in something like this, like there is nothing on my social media that is worth keeping.
Absolutely not. If you are
even remotely involved in something like this, I would have my presence stripped from the internet.
100%. So fast forward to November 29th, just 2 weeks ago, the judge on the case ordered the release of the probable cause affidavit. And let me back up. The beginning of November, like November 2nd or 3rd, the original judge on the case recused himself from the case, which I thought was very interesting. But I later found out, I don't know for sure if this is true. I just read about it that he had health conditions and the stress of the case was getting to him. So the new judge came in November 29th, ordered the release of the probable cause affidavit. So what happened was the defense, Richard Allen's defense, said, we need to release something that shows that he's innocent.
Which is because rare. That a defense was like, no, we want this.
We want to release this information. It's usually
the prosecutors who are like, no, release it.
Yes.
And both parties were like, release it.
Yes.
Because one party thought this will prove his innocence and the other one thought it proves
his guilt.
Yes. So it's mind-blowing what the document said, and that the defense was like, yeah, release it. I read through those and I was like, why?
What? Yeah,
why would you want these released?
Does not help you whatsoever. No. So the document is full of great information about probable cause and specifically stated that Richard Allen was on the Monon High Bridge Trail between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m. on February 13th, 2017.
He was there.
To
put it clearly, he was there. And he admits to being there.
And I'll tell you exactly what he says.
Yep.
The document also states that he was seen directing the girls to go down the hill. Down the hill, 3 key words, down the hill. So the document also has witness testimonies as well, including the 2 girls that initially came forward, or the 3 girls that initially came forward. Part of the probable cause is so fucking terrifying, to be honest, but it says, quoted, the video recovered from victim 2's phone shows victim 1 walking southeast on Monon High Bridge while a male subject wearing a dark jacket and jeans walks behind her. As the male subject approaches victim 1 and 2, one of the victims mentions gun. Near the end of the video, a male is seen and heard telling the girls, "Guys, down the hill." The girls then proceed down the hill and the video ends. So as Cadence was talking about earlier, they gave us a little snippet of the video, right? And it said down the hill.
Yep.
Then 2 years later, they released that it says, "Guys, down the hill." Well, now the probable cause document says in the video, the girls say
a gun.
Gun.
Exactly.
And you can see them in the video proceeding down the hill after he says, "Guys, down the hill."
Yes.
It's fucking terrifying.
Well, and we're not even
done.
The worst.
No. The document also says that the deaths are ruled as homicides and that the clothes of the victims were found in the Deer Creek. A .40 caliber round was also found less than 2 feet from the victims' bodies, so technically in between the girls' bodies. 3 witnesses said that they saw Richard Allen that day and described him as being creepy and said one of the girls said that she said hi to him, but he just glared back and looked like he was on a mission. Didn't say anything back to her. This witness also took pictures of him that day on the trail between 12:43 p.m. and 1:26 on the Freedom Bridge. So again, proof that he was there, even though he already said that he was, but proof.
Yep.
Another witness said that she was walking away from the bridge when she saw a male in a blue colored jacket and blue jeans who was muddy and bloody. She thought that he had gotten into a fight. And it's key to note that all of these different witness testimonies say that a man was wearing a blue jacket and blue jeans.
And one of them even said hooded, I believe. And the other one was like, I believe his face was covered.
Yes.
He might have had a hood.
But it was all consistent with a blue jacket and blue jeans.
Like the description of all of them, even down to his behavior.
Yes.
That he glared, that I forget the other word that someone used, but it was something synonymous with aggressive. It was something, or like, basically like not in the mood to talk back.
Yeah, didn't look back at me.
The muddy and bloody
is terrifying.
And two, you are in the woods,
by the water.
Someone brought that up, like, he could have been down there, he could have fallen, he could have gotten in a fight, like, wasn't the most clean cut looking man, but like, hello, is that not like the biggest fucking trigger?
Is like, that not like
down to the description?
Such a red flag. Like,
and we have a picture of the man who we can only suspect.
Right.
And keep in mind too, like the police do know that this video is very important, and that they just are stressing that these girls took this video because they had to have known they were in danger. At one point, like right off the bat, they labeled Libby like a hero for her bravery.
Yes.
In having,
because if she didn't take this video, like, they wouldn't have anything to go off of.
Nothing to go on.
Literally,
and these girls had to have known they were in danger. The police fully suspected that that's why they started filming.
Yes.
It's because they knew they were in danger. And so these girls knew that this was an aggressive man, or that whatever. So now not only are we getting like physical like similarities, but also behavioral similarities.
100%.
So reading these documents like blew my mind.
Yeah. So Richard Allen clearly was on the trail that day, and he confirmed this back in an interview back in 2017. 2017.
Guys, he was interviewed
back in 2017. And in the interview, what he says, quoted, or it says in the document, Mr. Allen was on the trail between 13:30 and 15:30, so 1:30 and 3:30 in the afternoon. He parked at the old Farm Bureau building and walked to the new Freedom Bridge. While at the Freedom Bridge, he saw 3 females. He noted one was taller and had brown or black hair. He did not remember the description, nor did he speak with them. He walked from the Freedom Bridge to the High Bridge. He did not see anybody, although he stated he was watching a stock ticker on his phone as he walked. He stated there were vehicles parked at the High Bridge trailhead. However, he did not pay attention to any of them. He did not take any photos or videos. So this is very important to what he said, because here, fast forward to this year when he's arrested, his story completely changes. October 13th, 2022, he was interviewed again by investigators, and he advised he was on the trail on February 13th, 2017. He stated he saw juvenile girls on the trails east of the Freedom Bridge, and that he went to the Monon High Bridge. Richard Allen further stated he went out onto the Monon High Bridge to watch fish. So in the prior interview, he was watching stocks on his phone. Now he's watching fish. Later in a statement, he said he walked out to the first platform on the bridge. Never said that previously. He also stated he parked his car on the side of an old building, which was consistent. He told the investigators that he was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood. He advised he may have been wearing some type of head covering as well. He further claimed he saw no one else except for the juvenile girls he saw east of the Freedom Bridge, and he told investigators at this time that he owns firearms and that they are at his house. So,
guys,
all the other witnesses are telling you, we saw this man. This is what he looked like.
He's in the video.
We saw him, and he is confirming that it's him.
The FBI, or I shouldn't say FBI, whoever it was, whatever department or bureau it was, has found similarities in his voice, found similarities in his walk.
Yep.
And we have witness. And this man is basically saying, I was wearing that. I was there. I remember the girls. But, buddy, it wasn't me.
Right.
What the fuck? Then this is the biggest coincidence.
Yes. And says that he has guns, which we're going to talk about even more here in a second.
It angers me.
Oh, angers me so much.
This whole thing, this is a 12-page document. You should absolutely read it.
You should.
And the whole time I had like my jaw dropped as I was reading it.
You were like,
I was like,
what?
How is this man not
how does he not think that he's guilty?
And how could his defense say release this?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad they did.
Oh,
but I was just like, what? Are you going to talk about the car thing? The car similar? Okay.
Yeah. So October 13th, back to the search warrant. The search warrant was executed. And again, previously, that was all hearsay of what the neighbors saw being taken out of the home. Well, now in the document, it stated that a .40 caliber pistol was taken. A blue Carhartt jacket was also taken. And the lab later determined that the unspent round that was located 2 feet between the victims' bodies had been cycled through Richard Allen's gun. Now,
come on.
For those of you that don't know what an unspent round is, that means you are shooting your gun and you didn't hit anything. So literally the bullet hit the ground in between the 2 girls' body. No, the bodies were placed there afterwards. If that does not connect him to this case, I don't know what does.
So it was confirmed it was his gun.
It was confirmed it was his gun. It was confirmed that the bullet came from his gun.
Yes.
And he stated on October 26th in another interview, because he went in voluntarily October 26th to talk to the detectives. He wasn't arrested on the 13th when the search warrant happened. October 26th went in and said, yes, it was his gun. And he would never let anybody else use his gun or touch his gun. But he didn't have an explanation as to why the bullet matched that of his gun. And he denied any involvement. For those of you that don't know a lot about guns, when a bullet is fired from a gun, significant markings are marked on that bullet. It's like a fingerprint of a person.
Yeah.
It's all different. Every bullet is going to be different based off of that gun. I mean, the gun could be dirty. It could be clean. It could be new. It could be old. They all have these different signatures. So whenever you're watching Dateline or Forensic Files and they connect
that's how
a gun to a bullet, this is how they're able to do this. So he's trying to say that he's denied any involvement, but he would never give his gun out, and he would be the only one that would fire his gun.
Also, to add to this, one of the interviews that I watched, there was a woman who was part of was in the Innocence Project, which I will say this, I believe in the Innocence Project. 100%. I think it needs to exist. I think people are wrongly convicted, and it really, really fucking
all the
sucks. Time. And there was a case where a man spent 30 years on death row because of one of these analysis that was wrong. So I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but the statistic is that there's a less than 1% chance that these are inaccurate.
Less than 1%.
And I'm sorry, you can burn me at the stake for saying this, but I think that it's better to be safe than sorry.
100%.
And listen, I know that can really bite you in the ass if you're the one that's on death row for 30 years and you get your life stripped away.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
I can't imagine. I feel horrible for those people. I think that is awful, and I think everybody who put them in there should be held accountable.
Right.
Absolutely. But guys, it's still a less than 1% chance that is the case.
Right.
And it's not like this is the only evidence we have.
Right.
If that's your only evidence, I'd be like, okay, look into it. No, we have a fucking list. Yes. And this was just kind of like the nail in the coffin.
I think it was the nail in the coffin. If the gun doesn't connect him to the murders, then I don't know what does. You know, the evidence that was gathered is tremendous, you know, and it essentially concluded that Richard Allen was indeed the suspect on the video who forced the girls down the hill. They also believe that he was the suspect seen by all of the witnesses as the descriptions matched. The document also says that he was the one that murdered the two girls. The document also says that the investigator believes Richard Allen was not seen on the trail after 2:13 p.m. because he was in the woods with the two victims. Mm-hmm. That unspent .40 caliber round between the bodies of victim 1 and victim 2 was forensically determined to have been cycled through Richard Allen's gun. That gun was found at Richard Allen's residence, and he admitted to owning it. Investigators were able to determine that he had owned it since 2001, so it was an older pistol. Mm-hmm. Also, he stated he did not... So weird that it doesn't at the same time.
Yeah.
Also stated that he had not been on the property where the unspent round was found, and that he did not know the property owner. He also said that he had no explanation as to why an uncycled round through his firearm would be at that location. So let's play devil's advocate here just a little bit. You're walking on the trail for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Going for a walk. Maybe it was a nice
checking stocks,
day,
watching
whatever.
Fish.
Yeah, checking your socks, watching your fish. You're carrying a gun, .40 caliber gun, because that's what you did. You carried a gun all the time.
Did he admit to having the gun on him during that walk?
It doesn't say.
Okay.
In the document.
I don't remember that either.
It doesn't say, but I'm just speculating.
Right.
Because it hit something, happened.
Yeah. Someone had his bullets out there.
Right. So let's say you felt threatened.
Yeah.
He feels threatened, pulls his gun out, and decides to shoot near the area where two girls were at.
Yeah.
And miraculously, your bullet is laying in between two bodies.
Yeah.
Two dead, innocent girls' bodies.
Yeah.
That's your story? That's your defense? Like, I'm just trying to think about the reality of that situation.
I would think his story, again, devil's advocate here, I would think his story would be more along the lines of, I frequent that trail a lot. Maybe the bullet was there from a previous day that he had shot randomly into the woods. I'm just saying, or
And
that,
but miraculously
but still,
2 feet in between the girl's body.
Yeah, that's
bodies.
I don't believe for 1 second he's innocent. I'll just say that.
Absolutely
I don't think this
not.
is. I think that every single piece of evidence points against him.
Yes.
And I mean, I let the courts do their job. Let people do their jobs. Absolutely. But we're here to speculate. And I was angered reading these court documents because I couldn't believe. One, it was infuriating to me that they had interviewed this man from the beginning. He admitted to being there. He had admitted to being there.
Match the fucking
same
sketch.
time. He matched the descriptions of people who had seen him on the trail.
Called in hundreds of tips.
And no search warrant or like nothing was performed.
Not I think that's 2022.
I think that's the most infuriating part of all of it is, you know, they begged the public,
the
for
whole fucking world.
And that's why one of the reasons they released that audio clip was, if this sounds like anybody, you know, like we're begging, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but the least you could have, like, you had a very small amount of people that were on that trail at that time that you knew of. I'm not saying there weren't more people there that day, but like you had witnesses say, okay, well, I did see this guy. Then you had another witness. Oh, I did see this guy. And you didn't just run with that.
Right.
Like nothing. You didn't look into him. I mean, you interviewed him and that was it. And he said, yeah, I was there. Yeah, I owned guns. Yeah, I was on that bridge at that time.
I was wearing a blue jacket and dark jeans.
Great. Thanks for your time. We'll let you know.
Yeah.
Like what like, made them
literally
stop?
Nothing. I mean, they clearly, and here's what pisses me off. They clearly had the bullet because
the whole time
they found the girl's body, I'm assuming naked, because their clothes were found in the creek. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the one thing to note here that we did not get from the probable cause document was DNA evidence, which I was quite surprised that we did not hear anything or read anything about DNA evidence. But I do remember in an interview, it was a press conference of some sort from one of the detectives that said that they had DNA evidence. But I'm curious as to why it wasn't considered in the probable cause document, period. Because if there is DNA evidence and if there is evidence of that bullet matching the gun, that's a nail on the coffin. I mean, he is done. And another thing that we still don't know of is how the girls were murdered. We can only speculate now that a gun is involved because you hear in the video the girls say gun.
Yeah, they see the gun.
And they say it in the video.
Well, and running with your theory of the bodies were moved, there would be DNA evidence on those bodies.
There would be DNA evidence on those bodies.
So
there would be DNA evidence on the ground, on the bullet too, unless he loaded the gun with gloves on, because you have to touch the bullets to get them in your gun.
We're also talking about the woods. Like, were there not like footprints or...
Right. He was muddy.
That was it.
Where are his shoes? I mean, the guy's not that smart, or he didn't think that he was going to get caught because he didn't get rid of the fucking jacket or the gun.
And he walked out. He walked out of that trail covered in mud and blood.
And he went in willingly to talk on October 26th.
There's just
this whole
so
case
many.
Is just so wild.
It's wild. And again, it's not, you don't want to like point the finger and be like, why didn't you guys do your job? Like, why didn't you do your job? Why did this? And
why
unfortunately,
did this take 5 years when you had the bullet for 5 years?
And, you know,
find everybody in the city. Start with everybody in the city that has a registered .40 caliber gun.
That was the other thing, is it wasn't an illegal gun. I remember somebody talking about that.
It was registered.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like the first thing you could have done is looked up the gun and found who owns this type of gun, and you could have started there, and they didn't do that.
They didn't do it.
And that's where it's like, it's hard as somebody from the public, or even like, you know, even people like above us, people who are investigators or just like really know this stuff, to sit back and like not point the finger, and because there just appears to be so many missed opportunities. And I mean, and unfortunately, the girls were found 24 hours later dead. It's not like they could have been saved. It's not like this was evidence that saved them, but I mean, this was a free man
for 5 years.
And he's
5.5 years.
So, I mean, it just, It's infuriating. It's so sad. It's so sad for these families.
Yes.
And it's such, I mean, if this is a case of negligence on all, and there's so many departments involved, so many people involved in this. It's like, how did this happen? Was part of this covered up, or was part of this just like not handled correctly? And so it fucked up everything else. But like, it just blew my mind that they had all of this information from the beginning.
Yep.
And just revisited it later.
Yeah. Literally.
Essentially that's what they did.
That's what they did.
So
fast forward to December 2nd, just a week ago, the judge issued a gag order preventing anybody involved in the case from speaking publicly. So parties involved, counsel, law enforcement, court personnel, coroners, family members, etc. They are not allowed to speak publicly about this case at all. But keep in mind that if you do violate a gag order, you could be fined or jailed. And this is to remain in effect until January 13th, 2023. And then the judge will decide if the gag order will still need to be remained or not. Yesterday, his defense, Richard Allen's defense, requested additional money and resources to sort through other tips to prove his innocence. So again, this is a continued, like, there's so much continued information that keeps coming out from this case. It's wild to me. What's also wild to me is that the judge took 3 days to issue a gag order. A lot of information can be released in 3 days, especially a high profile case. And guess what? Nobody talked. Nobody talked. There are no interviews with the family. You know, I mean, other than saying like, we're glad that, you know, the probable cause document, you know, came out, but there's nothing new that we don't know about from this document. I'm shocked about it all. Maybe
the judge did that strategically because he like wants people to know. He wants people to talk.
Maybe. I mean,
because nobody else has fucking talked.
Nobody else has talked.
I don't know. The other thing that I was going to bring up about the car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't bring that in.
That was another in the piece document where people remember they described it as either like a small car, a possible PT Cruiser, or a smart car. So they were all in agreement that it was some sort of small car. Yeah. Which is what he drove some sort of small Ford.
I want to say it was like a Ford Focus.
Something along those lines that was small. And one lady did note, and correct me if I'm getting this wrong, that the car was parked very oddly for the space. Yes. Because it was pulled in a way that you could not see. It was like plate. Backed in. It was blacked in against the building.
Yeah, backed in against the building. And he did say
that's where he
parked. And so he backed in so that way you couldn't see the license plate on the back of the car.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that was another thing that was like, I mean, that doesn't
sketchy,
like, it's sketch. I mean, it's suspicious.
I don't know what is.
And
there's so many parking spots.
It was the only other car, right?
Yeah. And there are so many parking spots at the normal High Bridge Trail parking area. And he didn't park there. He parked at an abandoned building.
Yeah.
Backed in.
And again, that's obviously not like evidence that you murdered two girls,
just evidence that you're fucking guilty.
That that you're hiding. That this is suspicious. That it's out of the ordinary, and you're also the only fucking person.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was very upsetting.
Another thing, so kind of jumping into the conspiracy theory thing. So I don't know if you heard this as well, but I had heard that the detectives and law enforcement, everyone's being very hush-hush about this case because Richard Allen would pretend that he was a police officer. And so he posed as I don't know if this is true, obviously, but he would pose as a police officer. And so it's speculated that he told the girls that he was a police officer and that's why this case is so hush hush, because apparently there were other girls saying that a man would, like, on the trail, would go to them saying that he was a police officer.
What?
Yes. Also,
and he has no like former experience as a police officer?
No, he was a pharmacy technician.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Another thing to note, too, is a lot of the times police officers carry a gun with a 40 caliber size bullet. 40 calibers are fairly larger bullets than like a 9mm, like a 22. And that's normally like, you find those bullets in a cop gun, 40 caliber.
Oh.
And so that kind of goes direct with that theory about him posing or pretending to be a police officer to get the girls to do what he wanted them to do. Yeah. Because, I mean,
I want to look this up because
I'll have to find it. Yeah. It was on Reddit. I love going down the Reddit hole, but God. Like, yeah. And then I heard something kind of similar to another, like on another, I think it was a YouTube video that I listened to a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about it too. But it's just
posing
crazy.
As a police officer.
Yeah. Saying that he's a police officer. So like,
I wonder if there's...
I mean, it makes sense. Like, he didn't say, like... to me, a normal predator... Why would he say, guys, down the hill? Like, to me, that's like an authoritative approach.
It is.
It's like, it's very direct. You're going to do exactly what I want you to do. And
it sounds... I don't want to say it sounds calm, but authoritative is a good word.
Yes.
It's very much like, guys... Down the hill.
And so to me, it's like, okay, the girls, maybe he did tell him, like, I'm a police officer. I need to talk to you about something. Guys, down the hill. And they saw a gun because they said gun. So it's like, what the fuck?
Well, it just makes you wonder what else is in that video. I just am not convinced that's it. And I'm not talking about the graphic stuff. Nobody wants to hear that.
No.
That's awful.
Just before.
What made her pull out her phone?
Yes.
Something had to tell, like something said, record this.
Yes.
And maybe she didn't catch that on the recording. I don't know. Maybe that is it. But the fact that they were sketchy about it from the beginning, and they only released down the hill, and then they're like, now it's guys down the hill, and they never released the gun part.
Never.
The gun part has not been released.
Until this document.
The document says it.
Yes.
But it makes you wonder what else they said, what else he said that they're not releasing. And again, I don't want to like do a bunch of conspiracy on something that's very real and it's very sad and it's but it does make you fucking question it because it's like you guys have been so sketch about releasing these audio clips,
everything
about a man that you interviewed from day one and didn't look into.
Yes, from day one.
He literally has a registered gun
that matches
the bullet that you found the day that you found the girls.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if there was like an error in the ballistics test, like with the bullet or something. You know what I mean? Where they're like, oh, it's actually this kind of gun. And then they did it again and they're like, oh no, it's his gun, the Sig Sauer model P226. Like, you know, it makes you wonder, like, what was it happened? That took 5 years?
Yeah.
Because we still don't know. We can only speculate.
Yeah.
Was it a DNA like error? Like, is there something that, you know?
I honestly hope there is a reasonable explanation.
I do too. I hope so too.
I hope that when we go through these trials that like there is a reasonable explanation.
Because it would make sense for all the other potential suspects that they brought forward. I mean, Keegan Kline and all the other people, like, that would make sense. Like there was an error of some sort and some sort of the evidence testing that made them think, oh, we don't know who it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's
even
wild.
with like the guy on the property, like they looked into him, they served him a warrant.
Instantly.
He had some suspicious, I got hair in my eye. He had some suspicious behavior.
Yeah.
Where he was supposedly asking for an alibi. I don't know if that was ever proven. Him asking for the family member.
Yeah.
But asking for an alibi, like they looked into him.
Yeah.
They served him a warrant.
Yeah.
So why not? I don't know. I'm just hoping that there is absolutely a reasonable explanation, because otherwise it is fucking negligent.
100%.
That's so sad. But so what's the next step? Like, when's the next shit taking place? January? Is that what you said?
January is when, what did they say?
The 13th?
The bench, January.
No, that's for the gag order.
Yeah. Yeah. January 13th is for the gag order. But, the pre-trial, I didn't date the pre-trial court date, but the trial is planned in March.
Gotcha.
So,
wow, March.
But here, like, the trial, they're going to bring forth all of the evidence.
Yeah.
All of it.
Good.
They have to.
Yeah, they have to. And I wonder what the defense's thinking was for wanting to release these documents. Like,
I don't know.
Were they wanting to go with the Innocence Project route?
I think
release it. We're going to show you that you're wrong.
He had to have told them, like, my bullet, the only reason why my bullet was there is because, like you said, I was shooting at a squirrel one day, or, whatever. And it just miraculously is in the middle of these two girls' bodies.
But like, even then, the defense wasn't like,
we probably shouldn't release.
Let's just leave that part out. But no, they were adamant about it.
No, they wanted to release this document to prove his innocence, and to me, it did the complete opposite.
For sure.
And I'm not being biased at all. I mean, this man, people respected him. He was a good man. Apparently, nobody saw any red flags. So it's like,
so kind of where I was when I read these, because none of this had come out, like I said, when we had done our NBI interview. And honestly, even when we did that, it had been months and months and months since I had last read up on this case. So a lot of the details weren't super familiar with me. I was kind of in charge of just reading off the timeline in this episode, and so I didn't really have, if anything, I was like, we should look into the social media guy, because that's the sketchy, that's disgusting. And he is a pedophile, and he is in prison, and he did admit to talking to Libby. Didn't fully admit, but he had talked to her.
Well, first he said that he didn't talk to her because apparently that account was
shared.
It's a shared account, and people would buy into it, where they could also see these videos and pictures and talk to these young girls as well. Yeah. But then it came to light, no, he was the one that accessed the account at that time who talked to Libby.
Yeah. But point being, when Alexa was like, I'm going to send you these 12 pages, and I read them.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I went in completely non-biased, but I just read it open-mindedly. And the whole time I was reading, I was like, holy shit, it was Richard Allen.
Yes.
Holy shit.
There was not one time in my mind reading the document where I'm like, okay, no, it's not him. No, it's not him. No, it's not him. It's him.
Even taking it back to the sketches and looking at the sketches compared to him, I'm like, holy shit. Oh my God. How did this not?
And the sketches being at his fucking work. People are refilling their fucking lisinopril or whatever. And here he is giving you the medicine, and there is the sketch right.
Maybe it's all the Lexapro I'm on, but that looks a lot like you, buddy.
I am.
Nobody said anything.
Nobody said anything. Nobody connected
my God.
The dots.
It makes me think of it wasn't Gucci. Who was the designer that was shot and killed? They did a whole Netflix miniseries on it.
Versace. Yeah.
Gianni and Versace. How that guy, even back in those days, he was on the run because everybody recognized him.
Instantly.
Everybody was giving him shit.
Yeah.
The motel he was staying in was like, hey, that's you. And so I don't know. Pay attention to wanted posters, y'all, on the backs of milk cartons, because I just don't. And again, maybe it's a matter of these people all know each other, and he's a respected man in society. You wouldn't think to kind of do a double take.
Yeah.
But I cannot wait to see what comes to this. I hope justice is served. And guys, at the end of the day,
yes,
I know the courts are going to do their due justice, just like we said. Like these tests, there is a less than 1% chance.
Right.
But, you know, it's kind of like birth control. It's not 100% proof.
99%.
You would know that of all people.
Well, let's not get into my story.
But actually birth control for Innocence Project lady and people who might have an issue with what I said about better safe than sorry. Think of it like birth control.
For real.
Birth control is 99% effective.
Some are a little less. Yeah.
Yeah. But you wouldn't sit back and say, well, we shouldn't use it then because it's only 99% effective.
Exactly.
No, you'd be like, fuck yeah, that's nearly 100. That's nearly 100.
So close.
It's the closest thing we can get to perfection. Nothing. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just like, I just can't believe someone would use that argument of like, well, it couldn't be him because there's a less than 1% chance that this is wrong. Yeah. It's like, actually,
I mean, but science is never 100%.
Exactly.
There's always an anomaly.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. And again, I keep going into all these metaphors. Birth control was one. Here's another one. Like even because it's infuriating.
I know.
And like words and science matter.
Words and science matter.
The thing is like people who want like 100% guarantee. It's like literally the only thing in life that's guaranteed is death. Like nothing else is guaranteed.
That's true.
Okay, another metaphor. That wasn't the one I wanted to use. So the word waterproof. So when I worked in retail, we were not legally allowed to say waterproof. Because they're like, nothing is waterproof. It's water resistant. Yeah. And you can get sued because what's going to happen is someone's going to take this $500 bag home and they're going to dump shit on it. And they're going to say, why is it stained? I thought it was waterproof. Yeah. So it's things like that it's like, oh my God, we are seriously going to debate on a less than 1% chance semantics. When we have this whole other list. It's like, okay, sure, less than 1% chance. What about everything else?
Yes, I know. What about everything else? But we need that everything else. The only thing that we have from the document that connects him specifically is the blue Carhartt jacket and the gun. That's it. That's all in the witness statements.
And him admitting he was there at that time on that bridge.
Saying that he was there at that time.
Going in the same direction.
There. In the same direction, seeing the girls. I mean, he didn't say Libby and Abby, but he said he saw the juveniles. Yeah. And so it's like,
I mean, it just blows my mind.
It blows my mind. To me, the gun is what ties him to the case, period. Mm-hmm. And if those girls died of being shot some way, shape, or form, then that
if anything,
that's all they need.
And if anything, okay, let's say in some real fucked up crazy world he didn't do it, then are you not responsible? I mean, I don't know a lot about guns, but then are you not responsible for what comes in and out of your gun?
100%. Let's say he shot towards the girls to scare them, but he didn't kill them. Yeah. You're still involved.
Yeah.
Some way, shape, or form.
Like,
that's attempted murder.
What we can't get past is it's still his gun and his bullet. So then it's like, okay, sir, then explain this. Like, you had to be involved somehow.
He doesn't know how. I don't know how my bullet got there in between their bodies. I don't have an explanation for it.
That's where I kind of switch into guilty until proven innocent, because that's some fucked up. That's a huge coincidence. Way too big of a coincidence for me.
Yes. And it makes you wonder, okay, back to the conspiracy, and we're like ranting at this point, so you can shut it off. But this is what we do whenever we talk about cases.
And it's been so long since we've done an episode, so we're like making up for all the weeks we've missed.
So let's say there are two people involved. Okay. Because there are two sketches.
Yep.
Richard Allen looks like Richard Allen.
Yep.
Another man who looks like a younger man, maybe in his early 20s. Let's say Richard Allen did fire the gun towards the girls to scare the girls and told the girls, guys, down the hill. Followed the girls down the hill. Man 2 came out. And he actually killed the girls.
Yeah, maybe.
Either way, you're still involved.
What about a polygraph? I know those aren't 100% accurate.
Those aren't.
But I would be really, really curious what would come from a polygraph from this guy.
Oh my God. I mean, but I think polygraphs are accurate. I mean, they have proven
they're
many
so close.
different cases. It's just like what you said, like a 99% chance.
Yeah. I would love a polygraph on this.
On this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On Richard Allen.
I wonder if he...
But then there's ways around a polygraph to where if there are people, like if someone's like, did you kill these girls? But then it's like your case or your example of like, well, maybe someone else actually did the actual murder.
It's still attempted murder because
you could get around. But you could get around a polygraph by like, because I didn't do it. But I still think something would trigger inside of you. That would make you so nervous would ask, about
did
answering.
You shoot your gun on February 13th?
Did you witness these girls getting murdered?
Yeah. Or did you shoot your gun on February 13th at the High Bridge Trail between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m.? Yes.
I would die. I would love that.
Yeah.
Do they still do that in court, polygraphs?
I think only if it's agreed upon on both parties. But it's very, very rare. It's very rare to get like the defense to agree upon that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're ranting, but guys, there's so much speculation and so much crazy. Please, leave your comments, message us. We want to know what you think. We want to know what your conspiracy about the whole thing is. Yeah. And honestly, listen, you guys are way smarter than we are. We get told all the time how fucking dumb we are. So, if you have a good explanation as to why this whole gun theory maybe we shouldn't be so dead set on that, then please tell us. I'm just saying from a public's perspective, he's guilty.
And tell us also why he was bloody
and muddy
too.
Muddy and bloody.
Muddy and bloody.
New merch coming 2023.
Muddy and bloody.
On Blue Carhartts.
That's a terrible joke.
We basically didn't make a joke this whole episode, so let me have my joke.
That was it. Good job. All right, we're signing off. So as always,
stay sinister. Bye.